Hello and welcome to the Inner Compass podcast. I am Victoria, founder of the Inner Compass Collective, and this is a space for high achieving women who are at a crossroads, successful on paper, but sensing something deeper is calling. So if you're at a crossroads in your career or life, if you've outgrown something but you don't yet know what comes next, and you're craving direction that feels aligned instead of forced, then you are in the right place. And here we talk about identity shifts, self-trust, and defining your true north from your own inner compass so that you can consciously design your next chapter without abandoning success and abandoning yourself. A lot of people are in the void or the in-between right now. It's definitely in my field, not just clients, friends, but also everywhere I'm looking on social media, Threads, Substack, it's everywhere. And it is this void in between space where the old isn't fitting and the new hasn't arrived yet. And I'm noticing that a lot of people have already left their corporate jobs, just kind of had a gutful or had enough. There's some that are still looking, and then there's others that have been ejected out through the changes, the redundancies. Either which way, a lot of people are in this space right now, and it's like you've already taken your feet off of the cliff, but you don't yet know what is on that ground. Or for some who haven't left, they're like right on the edge of the cliff and they know that they're about to step into or need to step into this, and they're almost there, but their feet aren't quite off. But either which way, you're up that top, and what is coming is not clear. And this period is by far and large one of the most uncomfortable yet transformational periods of time, and it is absolutely necessary to create, particularly when it comes to purpose and mission and really stepping into more of a soul-led way of living. This period is exactly what you need. I know it's uncomfortable, and it's uncomfortable because we have been geared our entire life to live with false sense of control and certainty. So we have been taught to map a linear path. So for many who will be coming out of a background like mine, which was corporate, we had a career ladder, right? Like you walk in and there's just a very sequential, or this is where you're moving. Same with university. It's like, it's really clear. You like start here, you end there, that's what you get. And this opens the field to here, and then you go there and there and there. So we're really used to being able to see however many steps in front of us and not just be on that kind of linear trajectory. Now, when that linear trajectory stops working, as it has for many people and will continue to do so for many people, if you're not meant to be there, you will be ejected or you'll leave. So either which way, you're going to end up in this void. For our sense of safety and our ego, not being able to map where we're going is one of the most terrifying things. And it's also the reason why people won't take this leap or get their feet off the cliff unless they're like literally pushed by the bungee man, because they want the certainty before they've leaped. They want to have the next move before they've done that. There's a couple of issues with that though, particularly coming from a corporate background with a lot of pressure and a lot of stress and a lot of burnout, is in order to create a path that's going to have the fulfillment and meaning, you need the space to do that. And the space requires the slowdown of the nervous system and being able to fully, completely listen to ourselves. When we have our energy completely full with other obligations and we do not let any of them go, we do not create any space for it to come through. We are literally communicating, we don't have capacity. And we're almost just always going to have our feet on the edge of the cliff and not go because we're not creating any room for it to come. And then you have the ones on the other end, like myself, which I just jump off cliffs. I'm getting a little bit less inclined to do that with age, which is, I'm kind of sad about it because I used to have a very good cliff dive, because they're a little bit more able to sit in uncertainty and kind of shift and mold with the energy that goes there. But either which way, we're always going to try and map certainty. It feels comfortable, but it's ultimately restrictive and it's clearly not working. Otherwise, people wouldn't be leaving. And so this might sound crazy to some, but I would welcome the void and I would welcome the in-between. It will be one of the most uncomfortable periods of your life, but it is where things are going to land. And I've had many voids. I've had probably in my journey to leaving corporate, and then even after, I had two, what I would say, big voids. So the first one was when I left London. So I left London end of 2020. At this point, I had already been studying Masters in Psychology, Organizational Psychology. I kind of had a rough idea of what I wanted and whatnot. I was just studying and, riding the motions. And then I came back to Australia and I had 3 months off. And before I had that void, I really thought I had figured it out, because my mind had gone all logic and been like, oh, yep, no, we're going to study this for this many years, and then this and this and this. As I say, this is the path of the ego. It just wants to map it. But I just took this void period because I'd been overseas for about 8 years. So already this is a bit of a reinvention, identity type of shift. And instead of focusing on anything to do with career or path or anything, I just went into what I wanted to do, which was the spiritual journey, asking these purpose questions, energy work, and then it just all started unraveling from there. And I just started going deeper and deeper into this journey with no expectation or objective other than just to explore the self. I had the time. I was waiting between I did go into a corporate job at this bridge. Turns out from that void period, I had not figured it out, and that all started to unravel. And I started to be unraveled out of what I thought was the path, because I'd gone through this very corporate head, linear, career trajectory. Okay, I'm studying and then it's going to be here. It wasn't right. It was wrong. And then I had to let that go. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm back to square one now. And again, I kept getting I always end up in this tug of war, because I've got this overachiever type where it's always like do. But then there was a big part of me that knew that I just had to park it. So I parked it for a little while. But through the parking and literally just starting to do programs and studies that I just actually wanted to do, like it just started coming through, just from the inspiration and also from slowing down. So when I came out of London, my body crashed, like all things were happening, and my body needed to really slow down. And that is exactly what I did in the void period, which is exactly why it worked to bring through clarity and direction for me. And so through that void period, I got clear. I was like, all right. And then by the end of that year, I started studying to build what I'm in now. But then I had another void and I had another crash in between that. And this one lasted a little bit long. And I'm going to tell you exactly why. So I started building the business. I was doing my full-time corporate role at the time, and I was gearing myself up to leave. I had been gearing myself up to leave for about a year and a half, 2 years, and I was kind of working up towards that. I started having momentum in the business, and it just got time. And so I was like, no, this is gonna be fine. My business is ready. And I go off to Bali and I tried to do a group launch. And it did. In hindsight, it worked. And what I've learned now is it worked, because everything is a lesson and a movement and you just keep going. But I didn't get any sales come through from that one. And I had the biggest ego crash I've ever had, like ever, because it all kind of tailed on me. And if you have just made the leap off the cliff from a corporate, you may or may be in this period where you've left a very established identity and expertise, and you're probably up in your field, and it, like, you're used to being. Once you get to that point, like, it does get a bit breezier because you've already built your cred. You know what you're talking about. You kind of that. And then that identity is shifted out, and then you're all into a new venture. And a new venture brings with it all the challenges. It's, as I say, any business will be the biggest personal development journey you ever do. And I wasn't quite prepared for it. I didn't have anyone holding me through that. And I know in hindsight, if I did, I wouldn't have crashed out and given up quite as much as I did. So I went through all of that. The whole way I made that happen, and the launch and everything was all just dead set hustle, like just hustling, going for it. I had just deemed at the end it was a complete failure. So you bucket feeling like the complete failure on top of losing an identity that you've built as an overachiever. And you combine those two things in one and happening together. And I had just a bit of a meltdown. I was like, oh my God, I got it wrong. This isn't right. Why is this so hard? Absolute crash down in the void, which will probably be akin to maybe someone who's been ejected out of the career path. You might be facing similar energy to this second void that I had. And boy, was that one hard. It was hard because I kept trying to force my way out through the wrong energy. So I kept trying to like force action, but then I would pull back because I was just running so many beliefs around failing and like, I can't do it. And I kept like ending up in this like hamster wheel of trying and really not getting anywhere, to the point where I had to just stop. And a lot of people, when they are in a void, see, because I didn't want to be in the void at that time because it didn't feel safe. So the other void felt safe, like it had the breathing air. This one didn't, because I'd put so much pressure on myself and so much heat on everything working, and then it didn't, that the crash and the void just felt very, very heavy. And so eventually, as I said, I had to stop. I just completely stopped because nothing was working, because I kept trying to force myself out of the void rather than being in the void. So it's like I was trying to kind of keep breaking through a brick wall through action. Like, no, this has got to work. I've got to figure this out. I need the clarity, I need the direction. I've got to go. But then it's a brick wall. I just kept hitting my head. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to stop. And I did. And I pulled completely off, like completely. And at this same time, I started studying alchemy, which is honestly all about action through alignment and not through force. And I started kind of learning that and seeing that for what it was, and starting to understand what the void was really all about, which is what all voids are about. Because the void is really this period that comes about when we have, I guess, inner work to do to release identity attachments that we are still carrying, that are blocking us from moving to where we want to go, or actually getting clarity on where we want to go. Because if you are moving from corporate into purpose or soul-led, these are two very different modes of operating. They're two very different modes of working, and they're two very different modes of getting clarity and direction and making things happen. And when you shift out of these, there is this like shedding process where we are going to be forced or guided into coming up against these parts of us that we do need to see, we do need to give the airtime, but ultimately releasing the energy out so that we can shift into a different way of moving. And when we're not getting our direction or the next move, or we don't feel like we're getting momentum, it is because of this. It is because our energy and our focus and where we're trying to act from is coming from a place that we're used to, such as an overachiever, that is not going to get you to the next spot. No matter what you do, it's not going to work. And so this void is really a period where there are things that you need to let go of from your old, be it an identity, an environment, a job, a career, or anything. You need to let go of that and your, I guess, attachment or identity or worth into that to have the space before anything new is going to be able to come through. Because what is coming through in the new cannot. So if you think of going into a supermarket, now if you are trying to walk through and get clarity on all of the different avenues or paths that you could take, but you walk into the supermarket and you have your glasses on, or you have a torch, and this torch is based on everything that you know is possible, everything that you've like, it's just your knowing, it's what you can see, and you shine it down one aisle, but there's 10 other aisles sitting there. You're only looking down one aisle, trying to find your pathway through that, when there's actually a whole supermarket sitting there. And your next direction or your next chapter won't be in the aisle that you're looking in, because you've already been there. It's everything that you know. It's going to be in another aisle. But while you have your eyes and your energy just fixated on what you know and how you know how to work in the aisle and how to get clarity, you will not see it. It is literally in the dark. And so we need to remove these blinkers, so to speak, or our torches, so that we actually can go, oh fuck, there's a whole supermarket here, a whole supermarket of choices, and that's only going to come become open once we let go of what we're holding. Like we're holding this like vision of how it needs to be. That's what the void is to do. So the other approach, though slightly less common, particularly for my audience, is being in this void and just withdrawing and waiting, because this is also not useful in a void, because when we are just waiting very passively without any form of interaction with the energy, so to speak, or setting intentions or kind of going, I want to use this void too, we're just very passive and we're kind of withdrawn from the energy that is actually there. That is actually what creates the change that is possible in a void, because the change from a void and in between is bigger than any change and any vision you're ever going to be able to get. It is potent time if you use it. And it's really this combination. It is setting that intention for what you want. So whether it be the clarity on your next chapter, your next career move, and having that intention that I'm going to use this time, but leaving that to focus on the shadow, the identity work, the parts that you know are not serving, and beginning to release those and shifting those out in order to create the space for the direction to come through. So it's almost back to the supermarket analogy. It's like you come into a void with your eyes clearly looking down one aisle only. Through the identity and shadow work, it's about opening that periphery out until eventually you start to see, oh, okay, yeah, that's the option. And then it becomes clear and you start to shift yourself out of the void again. So it might feel like being in the in-between or the void is not, you're not doing anything, but you're doing so much. It is so much energetic work that without it, you wouldn't be able to get the direction. And this is also a great time to be building your inner connection and trust in that as well. And feeding your energy with shit you enjoy, feeding it with joy. So that was one other mistake I made in the second void, the big crash of identity, is I spent all my time and energy on trying to get myself out and get things moving, and none of it worked. That was just ultimately wasted time. Where that time would have been better used is like going into joy and getting myself in the energy of what I wanted to create and receive, because you are more inclined, well, it's not more inclined, you will get more clarity and direction being in the energy of what you want to create than trying to get yourself out of where you are. And if I could say any words to myself from the voids, I would be like, just relax into it, just allow it, take this time off while you can, because it won't be this quiet again, and know that it's coming. Just know that it's coming, that things filter through when they need to. So yeah, as I say, the void it's super necessary. It is one of the most important stages. Yes, it's uncomfortable, but if you come in with that frame that every single person goes through this, there are so many people in it right now, and you're going to keep being in it whenever you take these big shifts in identity. It's like there's a gap that we sort of create where we've let go or letting go in order to bring the new in. And just know that the more you lean into this and the more you allow yourself to rest, to enjoy, to be curious, to play, and the more you do the work to really understand how narrow your identities have kept you, the quicker your clarity and direction will come through, and the easier you will be able to navigate and sit through these. And they get smaller and smaller by the time, because we stop resisting them, basically. When we resist them, that's when they get really hard. And when we keep trying to run ourselves out of them, that's where we don't get anywhere. And so if you do find yourself in this void, this is what the Inner Compass Collective is all about. It is for women in this void who are wanting to map their next path and understand those coordinates as well. But again, as I say, we don't go in this energy of force. This is a slower path to mapping your next career chapter from purpose and from soul, using a lot of what we've talked about in terms of the identity work and also the surrendering, bringing in that curiosity, the enjoyment, the joy, and opening up your perspective to all of the pathways until that right one lands and you're like, that is it. And promise you the right one will land, but it won't land when you keep forcing it, which is the hard part for, I know, a lot of women. And so if that resonates with you, I will leave the link at the bottom, and enjoy your void if you do find yourself in that space.